All right, ladies and gents, we're back with another episode. I think a few days late. Our apologies. Some of us
My
were
apologies.
on vacation, but that's okay. You know, we gotta get out a little bit during this different summer. But this is episode's number 6 today, and we're back with talking about the Highwaymen, a movie that I personally had not heard of before. You know, Greg suggested it about last week, so. Um, I don't know. I guess we can just start right off with talking about the opening scene, which was, I believe, it was Bonnie and Clyde, breaking into that kind of like prison camp and
Oh yeah, when they
breaking
help
those people out,
Yeah.
right?
escape.
hmm
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Greg, this is your pick, so I don't know if you want to start off talking about like the start of the movie, anything that.
Well, I had never seen this movie before. Um, I'm very upset that I had not, because this is a real hidden gem. This movie, and it really was. And it's like in one of my favorite genres. Like I love period, like
Mhm.
things.
Yeah.
Sorry, my buzzer thing is going. But yeah, no. So the beginning, yeah, no, I thought it was very interesting how they like set it up for like Bonnie and Clyde, because I feel like how they did it with them, like they just started off with like their crime and like the red car,
Yeah.
and I felt like I don't know, it just like how it just showed her heels and stuff. Like we didn't really see much of them throughout the whole movie. We just saw like little glimpses. I thought that made it a lot more eerie and like mysterious. Like I like when movies do that, like for like the antagonists, like the villains, like when you don't really get to know them well, it's like scarier. Like they're more like I don't know, they're more like
Intimidating or like
intimidating.
I guess more
Yeah,
mysterious.
yeah. Like if it were to like show them like talking and stuff, like for the whole movie and like showing their faces and stuff, then it's kind of like okay, like we know them, like we know what they're about. But like just
Sure.
kind of like the unpredictable, like they're just really unpredictable. Like you don't even know what they look like until the end,
Mm.
really. And you just see like her high heels, and you hear her like when she shoots that officer, like she just starts laughing and stuff. Like it's just very sinister, and like it just makes I like how they did it. And it was just
Mhm.
them chasing these criminals that we don't really know what they look like, yet they're talked about all the time. But I yeah, no. So
Okay, so yeah, so I mean, Greg clearly thought this movie, in his words, was a hidden gem. So, Connor, I don't know if you wanted to talk about the beginning of the movie at all. I know you said you've seen it once before, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, I saw it once, maybe about like a year ago.
Okay.
Uh, when I saw it, I hadn't heard of it before. I was like, oh come on, like I've never heard of this movie. Like what the heck? And I haven't thought about it in a long time. And then Greg brought up that we were gonna watch it. And I was like, okay, because like first of all, I didn't really like the movie the first time I watched it.
Okay.
Um, but this second time around, I enjoyed it a little more. In the beginning, that's probably one of my favorite scenes because I like how the guy's like talking to the guard about like baseball and stuff like that. Um, and you're like, okay, I understand like the setting. They're in like early 1930s stuff like that. And speaking of the setting, like
Mm.
everything about the movie seemed like totally accurate and like made you feel like you were there in 1934, whenever it was, with the cars and the clothes and everything like that. And I thought that was super well done. Um, and I also like how they just started off with Bonnie and Clyde because, um, they're the crux of the movie. That's like basically what the movie's about. These two guys trying to hunt down Bonnie and Clyde. So you can kind of see what they're up against at the beginning and stuff like that. Um, yeah, I mean, I thought it was a fine way to begin the movie.
Okay.
I didn't really have any particular problems with it, but I mean, I didn't think it was outstanding either. It was just like, all right, like it was a good hook, I would say.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess I thought the beginning was pretty good. Maybe it's just me, and maybe I'm just not smart, but I thought that at the beginning, for some reason, I was under the impression that she was like, I thought they were like two different. I thought it was two different like I thought there were two different times. For a second, I thought she was walking on like the same prison field that they were on when they were talking. You know what I mean? When they were escaping. But then I realized she was just like trying to like shoot. And then once you
I
started,
did
I was like,
too.
oh, okay.
No, I did too, and that's what it
Yeah.
wanted you to do. It wanted you to think
Okay. Okay. Yeah. 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 I
I
was just
think.
like, okay, this is like kind of weird. I was like, whoa. Okay. So she's just helping them escape. And then that one prisoner got left behind. And then we saw him later, I think, right? In the bar. I think,
Mhm.
way later. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I forget his name, but yes, I think we saw him way later.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting. I thought that was good. I like the whole like escape scene. Um, I thought it was like Greg talked about the whole like shooting, and you see like their legs all the time, right? Especially like Bonnie's, I would say you see that like a lot. And I thought that was kind of it was good. I think it's good to start off like that, but I think that they did that for a very long time, like a little like a wait pretty like too long, because I don't think we saw anything above Bonnie's legs for like the first hour of the movie.
No, well, you saw her putting lipstick on, but it was very you couldn't see her face.
Okay, yeah. I
But
mean,
Well, okay.
yeah.
I
I mean,
like
I like it at the beginning, but I feel like I was like, I just want to see. I wished that, and maybe this is like in a like I don't. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they just wanted something different, but I kind of wish like we got a little bit more like just a little bit of background or interaction with uh, Bonnie and Clyde at all. Because I don't, you know.
Well, here's the thing: is that I think Greg's right that they were doing this to kind of like dehumanize Bonnie and Clyde to kind of
Yeah.
make these guys are bad, they're terrible people, that kind of
Mhm.
stuff, because that was kind of the perspective that the movie was taking, which was not how everybody felt, and I think still feels this, which they addressed, is like a lot of people thought Bonnie and Clyde
Yeah.
were like heroes and stuff like that.
We talk about that
But
a
this
lot. Yeah.
Yeah, but this movie was really trying to drive home like these guys did terrible things, they killed people and stuff,
Mhm.
which is I think why they didn't show their faces until the very end.
Sure.
So I think that's what Greg was trying to say before. But also I do agree with you, Ryan, that I think I would have liked it if we had seen
Mhm.
if we had seen them earlier and a little bit more before, because I think it would have made the movie more complex if we had
Exactly.
people and stuff
Well,
like
because imagine
I
if
would
you had
argue.
because imagine if you had I'm sorry, Greg, I'll just say one quick thing. I just feel like imagine if you had scenes with Bonnie and Clyde talking, and you got to see them earlier, right, as more of like much more like not innocent but more human, right, like more you felt some sort of like okay, like they're real people too, right?
yeah, it wouldn't have made it so black and white. Like
Well, no, I think we did get the background, but I think we got it in a very different way, like through people that knew them as young people, like through the dad, and
Maybe
basically,
that was a good scene where
and
he was talking.
the dad scene was good, yeah.
no, I really did like that scene because it was like he wasn't like this all the time. Like
Mhm.
now he's basically inhuman with his like his darkness and stuff. So I
Yeah.
think like taking the human element out of it like is actually okay because they did and like with the other what was that guy's name who was like he was like in the sheriff's department but
Yeah,
he
he knew them as kids. I forget his
they
name.
knew them as kids and so you had that side of them the innocent side but then like I don't know then all you see is just like these killers and I just think I don't know I think it really like um
Well, I think what it was trying to show
Well,
is this.
you can go
It was
ahead.
trying to say that like these people weren't always monsters, but now they are. Like it was trying to say like these are horrible people now,
Yeah.
which I for the movie that they were going for about it wasn't really about Bonnie and Clyde so much as like these guys hunting
Yeah.
for them. It worked for that for the movie, but I agree with Ryan that it kind of leaves you with a desire to kind of like see more of Bonnie and Clyde, which
Mhm.
is kind of how I felt after watching it the first time. I was like, like
Yeah.
I don't know, like
Well, I also think that in regards to Bonnie and Clyde, we're looking at them from, you know how, right, you've mentioned that like because we don't get to see their faces until the very end, it's very like it's very like dehumanized in the sense of like it's easy to kill them because they're seen as like villains. I feel like it's like we're seeing it straight from the perspective of Frank and Maney is their names,
yeah,
right? Correct? Yeah. I mean, I think we're seeing, especially from Frank's perspective, we're seeing it straight from his perspective. I think, in the sense of like they're really they're really evil, right? And they've killed so many people, but then
yeah
at the end, after he kills them, he like sees their faces and he's like, you know, remember when he got offered to get $1,000 for the interview and he's like really, like
yeah.
no, and it's like I wouldn't say he felt like remorse for killing them, but like you know what I mean. It's much more like
no that's what the movie I thought was really
yeah.
good
So I think
for.
that's what they're going for. Is basically what I'm
Yeah,
saying. They're going for like from his perspective, like what
right exactly that's why
he saw them as.
that's why they didn't show him because all Frank knew them by
Sure.
was the headlines and like all the killings and stuff.
Mhm.
And then like when he finally saw their faces afterwards, it's like that just it kind of reminds you of like
Yeah, a
humanity.
little bit.
And I
Yeah.
think that was the purpose too. There was like a bigger purpose just to like remind you that even if these people are doing like the wrong thing, like, the absolute last resort like should be to kill somebody. Like, and I think that's what like Manny was kind of like talking about the whole time too. He was always just like he was always so like he had a conscience.
Yeah,
And
but I also wanted to. So that kind of I want to mention like the so Bonnie and Clyde were very like sensationalized by like the country, right? Especially like by a lot of people, especially
they're
like
crowds.
younger people. It seemed, yeah. So a lot of people were like rooting for them almost, right? Like they crowded their car and they wanted to get a picture with them and everything. And I thought that was kind of really interesting because, as Frank pointed out, so that one guy who wouldn't tell them where they were, he's like, I'm rooting for them, and he's like really, like they killed a cop on Easter Sunday, and now his family's gonna have to go get food, from the government, like food stamps, because they have no money now, and their father's dead and their husband's dead, and like really you're gonna root for them. So
Mhm.
it's really interesting, right? Because you get to see all those, I suppose, because you get to see all those different perspectives, especially when you don't know them, right? Because you don't know Bonnie and Clyde. These people rooting for them don't really know them, but they're rooting for them because they don't really know like how it affects all these dead people's families and all that.
Basically,
It's
yeah,
very.
I like that a lot. Yeah.
I do think that was pretty good.
That was a good scene as well.
I
But
think, yeah, it was a good scene.
I think that this movie also omits a lot of points of view. In particular, the point of view of Bonnie and Clyde, which obviously was on purpose.
Oh
Like we
yeah.
scenes from them, but like
Mm.
I don't know if you guys have seen the movie called Bonnie and Clyde from like the 1960s with
Mm.
Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway. It's really interesting. It's like this exact same story, but like the whole movie is like about them.
Mm.
Is this fiction? Like, what's the genre
I
of this
think
movie?
it's based on real
It's just-
real stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
it actually happened, Greg.
I
yeah.
know Bonnie and Clyde is real, but I wasn't sure if like Frank actually was the one that killed them.
Oh yeah, he was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was.
Um,
Him and Maney were the ones that killed him.
remember the footage they showed at the end of the car that was all shut up and like.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
So in Bonnie and Clyde in that film, you don't actually see Frank. I mean, you see him one time, I think maybe,
Mm.
but he actually like ran into them like before that final encounter. I'm pretty sure.
Well, he
Really?
ran into him in this movie too.
Yeah, but it was like by himself. I think he ran into them, and they kind of like had a conversation with him and let him go. Like he was like at their mercy. I'm pretty sure that actually happened. But he doesn't play a big role in that film until the end when he like kills them. So it's just interesting. Obviously that film didn't take into account a lot of other perspectives, but in the 60s, like you had that kind of countercultural movement, and like people, especially young people, were like, like down with society as we like enter.
Oh, yeah.
It's so bad. It's kind of like,
Yeah. It was
mean-
kind of the same feeling from like Bonnie and Clyde with like the government and like the Great Depression and stuff.
Mm.
Why people like sympathize with them so much, I think, is not so much like, oh, these people are doing crime and killing people, like let's do that. I think it was more kind of like these people are taking a stand against society, which is like
No, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
harming us and stuff.
yeah, but honestly, it's like, I don't think this movie made a mistake by not doing that. I think it was intentional. So I can't like.
Oh,
I think it was intentional.
it was intentional. Yes.
That it kind of left me feeling like I was missing something,
Yeah,
a piece of the puzzle.
yeah. I mean, yeah. I didn't feel like I needed that, but like I could see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, that's why I was saying like I was hoping for a couple scenes like throughout the whole movie. I'm like, I want to know their motives. I want to how did they get like where they are? Like Bonnie and Clyde. Like what are their motives for just driving by and killing all these cops? I want to know like how they're feeling. And we only really got to learn that through other people, right? Because I think they mentioned a few times like how you noticed at the very beginning when she was shooting off that gun in the woods that she had like a bum leg, like her leg was dragging, right? And they mentioned that they mentioned that like he ran the car off the road and she like got her leg messed up. And I think they mentioned like were they gonna do something to her hair or something in Dallas one time, and then like they didn't.
Her hair done, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah.
So I don't know. It like Greg, it definitely was intentional. But I was just saying that I wish maybe there was a scene or two. But I mean, a lot you don't necessarily need that. But I just wish we got a perspective.
Yeah, but I think like his father, like really does kind of like do a lot of that. Like, not their motives like currently, but like maybe some of the motives for like hating.
Well, how it started.
He got arrested for stealing a chicken.
Where he's like, where Frank says something to him like maybe there was something in him that made him steal that chicken in the first place, and his dad's like maybe he was hungry, maybe we're all hungry, which I just thought was interesting. Like that was like
Kind
the
of, yeah.
the whole movie is like what are people's motivations for doing things like bad things,
Mhm.
and
Right.
maybe they're just simple as survival and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I also really liked. Do you remember when Clyde's dad was telling him like, yeah, he just stole a chicken, and like he was forced down he was like, I don't know if he said forced, but he was pushed down this path of like, running from the cops and killing and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then and then Frank told the story about how he, that whole story about how he was kind of almost he put it from his perspective. He was almost like kind of pushed down that path of like being
Of
the cop or being the law, right?
yeah.
Yeah, so like it's almost like he's saying like we all get pushed down like paths we don't want to. He's like
Mhm.
I didn't like I don't want to. He's like I don't want to necessarily kill all these people, but it's just kind of what happened. So I thought that was kind of interesting, right? Because from everyone's perspective, it's also different and like
Yeah. No, I
like,
agree. And then
so I
yeah.
thought that was really good, Greg. I agree. I thought that seems very good. But
Yeah, because the movie wasn't trying to give you their perspective at all intentionally, but they did what they could to like talk about the human parts of them,
sure,
like
sure.
like through the dad and like through the school children stories and
But like his dad still, his dad still said like end this now. Like I know it's only gonna end one way. So
Yeah,
he was like almost asking Frank to like kill his son basically in that moment, which like even his dad in this movie is like saying like the only answer is to kill these people, which I'm sure it was, but it's just interesting that his
I mean,
dad.
like it was. Yeah, I mean they had killed. I think it wasn't it 13 people. Is that what it was?
speaking of that, yeah, something like that. Did you find it interesting how each killing scene, like the car was just like they were there the night before and just
Yes,
the car all day?
it was always like that. I'm surprised they didn't like. I'm surprised investigators never like kind of like broadcasted that out. Like, hey, like
They
Bonnie
just
and
sit.
Clyde have been known for like like stalling their car on the side of the road. Like, be careful of cars like sitting on the side of the road.
It's interesting. I think they're just waiting for cops.
Well, I did notice
Yeah,
that the
yeah.
cops check on them though. The cops like had guns with them, which you wouldn't really see nowadays. Like cops getting out of
Of
their
course not. Yeah, you don't get out of your car with your gun out.
yeah.
When,
I mean, unless it's the
I mean,
circumstance.
unless like you're going into like a fight, like a yeah.
Right, but why are they coming out with the guns if they didn't have bullets in the guns? Remember how like the bullets were in the hands of the guy?
I mean, I don't know about that first group of cops, but the
I
second,
the second one I know what you're talking about.
And then yeah, after they well, I think it was interesting how like that scene like where it was night, they showed him playing the saxophone outside of his car.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so eerie. Like that's why I like that we don't really know them and stuff.
But am
Because
I
when you meet somebody like I don't know, it's just so creepy. Like this murderous guy just like playing like the saxophone out of his car. It's just I don't know.
am I crazy? We didn't actually hear the saxophone, right?
Uh,
I
I
don't
don't think
remember.
we did.
I,
I kind of wish we got to hear it, just like him playing the saxophone as like the sun's
Yeah,
going down. And that would have been a little more like I know
creepy.
it should be Greg. Like yeah, like okay, this guy's just
But like, but just
waiting
think
for the
about, like,
cops.
think
Yeah.
about if you knew him, like, and there was dialogue that whole time, it wouldn't be as creepy and eerie if you
Oh
saw
yeah,
him.
I agree. I just wish they had like limited. I just want to keep that eerie, mysterious air. I guess you're right. You can't have like a lot of dialogue, but maybe if they wanted to keep it, they still could have had like limited like lines. I don't know. I feel like, but
Right.
I get it. If they want to keep that whole mystery around them.
that's right. So they're taking a certain perspective on it,
Yeah, they are. Yeah,
like trying to make them seem creepy, creepy, creepy.
Did you guys? Yeah.
yeah. So hold on. I hope you don't mind, but I kind of wanted to like jump back to kind of uh, going in like a order of the movie, if that's okay.
Mhm.
Which was going all the way back to when we see, I believe it was Frank and his wife, right? He's just, I forget what the very first scene was,
With his
but
wife.
yeah, I forget what the very first scene was, but I know we just see him at his house and then like talking to his wife, and then I know, um, oh no, maybe it was the mayor. So I'm so sorry. We saw the mayor, right? Or the governor. Was it the governor? My goodness gracious. She was nicknamed Ma, right?
Yeah.
It was the governor. Which, what did you think of her whole like? Personally, I thought that they wrapped it like they didn't even wrap it up. Like she just kind of just went away. I kind of wish like
It's like not really there in the second half of the movie.
yeah. Like I kind of wish
Like it was gonna be a bigger issue. Like when
yeah,
they
exactly. I kind of wish
Yeah,
there
I
was a
did
little
too.
bit of a wrap up. Like it kind of just kind of like went it just kind of died like halfway through, yeah. So like I don't know if you have any thoughts at all on her like
Her purpose.
yeah, like I like what did you think of like her in the movie like in general? I don't know if there's
a
if you
lot of
guys have
this
any thoughts on that.
movie had to do with like her and Lee Simmons and then like recruiting Frank to like go get
Sure.
the gang and stuff like that and how it was like a controversial decision and whatnot. And then you get that scene where she's like, make sure you get them before they do.
Yeah.
And like it seemed like she was heavily involved in stuff. And then after they like that, remember there was that point where they were like, you can't cross this roadblock, and then they crossed it anyways.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, they're just forget about them, like they're done now, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she just like takes credit for it. It just kind of felt like it was building up,
To be
and
something.
it was kind of unresolved, like you said, Ryan. And I
Yeah.
also feel that she is like a character was just there to be kind of like she was there to kind of have the first half of the movie be interesting, like have some conflict and like
Sure.
Well, I agree, and it's like a female governor in the 30s, which is like unheard of.
yeah, that is an interesting point
That
that they
is true.
that
And
one, like
what state was it? Do you remember?
Texas.
It was Texas, right? Yeah. She was governor of Texas in
Yeah,
1934.
she was the first female governor of Texas. Yeah,
yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
which is pretty crazy. I think that element of like having her at the top, like bossing around all these like tough like men and stuff. It's just kind of like it's interesting to have that.
Mhm.
No, yeah. And I also there was one scene that I thought and like I said, Connor, I thought it kind of just died off in the middle, which was I was kind of disappointed in. But I thought there was the very last scene I think she was in. She was talking like behind the scenes to like I don't some like people beneath her, and she was saying like get it. I forget what she was saying. She was mad. She's like get it together or something, or like
Yeah.
figure this out or whatever. Because or else like we're gonna be like we're gonna have a problem. And she's like angry, and then all of a sudden she like turns around and opens the doors, and she just immediately like changes her
Oh,
demeanor
I know.
completely and starts smiling. Like oh wow, I missed you guys or whatever. Like
Yeah.
to that room full of people, and I thought that was really funny because that was just like the epitome of like politics and politicians. I just thought that was kind of neat.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. In general, you're right. It was kind of the main catalyst for getting Frank and
Yeah.
Maney into the story, right? But
I mean, here's the thing is that I was just kind of tired of those scenes in general. Like, like the movie could have just been like, oh,
yes,
we need Frank Hamer and like the Texas Rangers, and then now it's about them. Like we didn't need this other conflict of this dynamic because it didn't really factor into the rest of the story.
You mean with the cops?
Bonnie and Clyde. I mean, that was interesting, but you could have had that without the governor thing. Like it could have just been like,
Oh, I thought you meant because there was more conflict too. Like there was conflict between like the FBI.
oh yeah, I
And
like.
And I like that because that was like tradition versus progress. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would have been better if we had less stuff to do with like the governor and trying to recruit Frank at the beginning, and more stuff with the FBI and that kind of conflict throughout.
Yeah, but I feel like it was like necessary kind of because like how would they get there in the first place if it wasn't for the governor?
I mean, it could have just been
sure.
even simpler. Like, oh, like we open with that scene with them escaping, and then it's just like a quick conference where they're like, I think we're gonna have to go to the Texas Rangers and stuff like
And
that.
then she pushes back a little
No,
bit.
I know,
And then
but I think it's important though. I'd argue it's important though because like they originally it's the Texas Rangers, not the Oklahoma Rangers. Like they have to stay in their state, and the fact that like they went past their bounds and how big of a deal that was, like I think that's what like she's good for too. Like just showing like I don't know, like the defying the authority. Like it just kind of shows like how dedicated like he is to his cause.
I guess I just think you could have gotten there without having her really involved that much.
yeah.
Just had Lee Simmons as kind of
Well,
like.
something that I wrote down, and I feel like it's kind of pertinent to this, is I wrote down like a lot of these scenes. I felt like, especially in the first half, ran too long. Like I thought, like you could have condensed a lot of these, particularly when you see Frank and his wife. Like we see like such long scenes at this house, and it turned out to really not mean anything,
Yeah,
other than she was worried.
I thought it was gonna be this big deal about him
Yeah.
leaving, and she just like lets him go.
She's like, I got you sandwiches. And it's okay. So yeah, I feel like, and then like there were some scenes towards the back end. I think there was some dialogue I don't remember exactly which, but I think it involved. I need to go back and remember, but it was a
Oh,
little short. There was some like it was a little short. I wish they expanded that a little more.
Oh,
oh,
I have
really?
something for that.
Yeah, so there was just some. I just wish they could have cut out a little bit in the front end because I don't remember the exact minute, but
The
I
pace
know that it took a long. The pacing was very slow in the beginning, wasn't it?
was much faster and stuff like that.
Yeah, like okay, I will say that
Mhm.
they should have. I'm taking notes. They
Yeah.
should have cut off some of that like beginning stuff, like with the wife and stuff, and added it to like that guy who pretends to be fixing his tire. I think that'd be very important to have like more information on him
Oh,
and his story.
Let's a lot more detail about him too in Bonnie and Clyde from like 1967 or whatever.
Oh, really?
But I would have liked that in this movie.
Mm.
Like more information on him, like his son's affiliation, like who exactly. Like I wish they could have cut more and put it back on the back end like of that, like because he was very important. That was how they got them, and I just felt like that was kind of shortchanged.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I also thought it was. I mean, I don't really know if this matters at all, but I thought it was kind of interesting how you see a bunch of scenes, right, with I believe Frank and Maney. They're shooting. I know you have Frank was shooting the bottles and he was struggling to hit those, and Maney, I think he was shooting at that sign, and then Frank's like, "We need more firepower and everything." And I just thought it was kind of interesting because, like, I don't know if this is intentional or not, but at the end, like, it didn't matter at all in
Yeah.
terms of like all like the firepower they had,
It
and
didn't even happen anymore,
yeah,
and it didn't matter because they had the guns.
yeah. I just thought that was kind of interesting. But yeah, let's see what else. I wrote down that I thought it started off kind of slow.
I mean,
All
really,
right, can we talk about? I mean, sorry, Connor. Do you want to talk about something real quick?
well, I was just gonna say at the end, when they find McNabb dead, like after he told Bonnie and Clyde that they were gonna like go after her at the hairdresser or whatever, and then they find him dead at night and it's like raining and stuff.
Yeah,
Um, and then they have that conversation afterwards. It's like, did I get this kid killed and stuff like that? And it's like, should we even be here? And like this, they have this like
yeah,
long, like, then why'd you even come? And then we have more scene of like rain, and then he finally gets in the car and they finish the conversation. I felt like scenes like that, even at the end, maybe dragged on a little bit too much. Which I know like that's a good dramatic scene, but I felt like when I was watching it, I was like, oh yes, and the scene right here, and it's like,
I
and then it keeps going. I was like, oh,
know what you mean.
it's fine. Like it's not a big deal, but
I will say in that scene, remember when I think Manny said like you're hiding behind like your idea of right and wrong, right, or something, and
yes.
then I think Frank goes, "Yeah, I'm not the only one hiding behind something." I thought that was I don't know. I just thought that was a nice little line.
Yeah.
I think he was saying he was hiding behind alcohol. I think is what he was saying.
Oh, really?
I think that was his intention. What else would he be hiding? I thought that's what I thought.
I felt like if it was alcohol, it would have shown him drinking a little more, like or
Why
drunk.
not? But I think it was just in general throughout his life, not.
Present is like that was also something they brought up in the beginning. He's like,
Mhm.
"Are you drinking?" And he's like, I don't know. He put it some weird way. He was
Yeah,
like,
he was like, no.
he's like, that's a weird way of asking if I'm drinking alcohol. And then we see him drinking alcohol a couple times throughout, and that
Mhm.
doesn't really have anything to do with anything later either. Like there are just a lot of things that just
Yeah,
like,
I think he was just saying in the past. Like,
you know,
I think he was saying in the past he hid behind alcohol. Yeah,
yeah.
is what he's saying.
Um, yeah.
I'm sorry, Greg. Go ahead.
No, you're right. What? Go.
I was just gonna. Well, okay, I was gonna change the topic. I don't know if you wanted to say something else on what we were talking
I was
about.
gonna change the topic too.
Okay. Well, I was gonna. Okay. Well, I wanted to talk about the introduction to Maney, right? The other cowboy or Texas Ranger.
Interesting.
Um, I don't know what you guys thought about that, right? We got to see him at that house that was owned by the bank, right? I believe
Yeah.
it was like closed, and he was just. I mean, we saw him wake up next to a bottle. Wasn't it a bottle of alcohol? I'm
You
pretty
know
sure.
what makes you think that
Yeah.
he's an alcoholic? Though, actually, yeah,
What'd you say?
it makes you think that he is an alcoholic
Yeah, yeah.
because his business partner or his partner that was a Texas Ranger was really rich,
Hmm,
like with the new Ford car,
yeah.
like
They had a really nice house.
Well, he was because I remember they talked about at the beginning, like that Gladys came from some sort of like her parents were super wealthy or
Oh,
something like that from some industry or whatnot.
I see.
Yeah.
But I
But
don't know. What did you guys think of that introduction? Like, his whole family. Like to me, it seemed like he felt bad. He felt really bad about not I don't know not supporting his kids or like not being there for his kids or doing enough for his kids.
not working.
Yeah,
yeah,
well, yeah. He's like, I'll work one more day at the garage or whatever. and then he like gave his or was it his daughter's son? Was that his daughter's son?
It was his grandson.
I
Yeah, it
was
was
really
his grandson. Yeah.
watch that movie. The first wait, so is that his wife or is that like
Yeah, I know. I
No,
know.
that's his grandson. That's his daughter.
Yeah, it's his daughter. Yeah, but at first I was like,
I
huh?
thought that too.
We never saw his wife or his old wife or whatever.
yeah or his yeah
Yeah, we just never saw her.
but
Yeah. He
I don't-
mentioned it once.
But I don't know what you guys thought about that, like the whole introduction.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. Like the interesting dynamic. Like, he's just like the drunk grandpa, like
Yeah.
kind of like a loser, just walking his kid out to the bus. I
I
thought it was.
a good relationship with his grandson. I thought that was interesting. Like when he gives him his plate. And
I
stuff.
like.
Yeah, I like that too.
It
But,
just
like-
kind of shows off like how he's a good guy. Like he's a good guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Or-
a good guy.
When he's walking his kid out to school, like, and the grandkid is like, oh, what this kid at school told me you used to kill a lot of people and you might be going to hell for it. I just thought that was interesting because, like, I mean, obviously this is fictionalized, but like the kid telling his granddad about that right as like, you know,
Yeah.
growing up, like I don't know. It's
I also
Hollywood.
thought it was cool how like I swear when Manny was walking back to his house, and I'm pretty sure he's walking up his porch and he stops and he like turns like this. I swear I thought he was just gonna turn around and look at Frank, like because he was sitting in the car. I thought he was just gonna like do like the like turn around and look at him, but he didn't.
Well, you know how like Frank turns around, right?
Mhm.
He goes to the store and he like buys the guns and he comes out and he talks to dude, what's his name? Maney
Maney,
about
yeah.
training him.
Yep.
Why'd you drive off? And he's like, you move like you're 85.
Yeah.
So
He
first of all,
wasn't joking though. He was serious.
yeah, no, I know he was serious. First of all, while that is a good scene with them talking about like why he should come with them, and like all these other Texas Rangers are dead, and like
Yeah.
it's like a good scene, but I don't think it needs to be there. Like he's like he drives off. He's like, no, I don't want this guy with me, and that's not even that big a deal when he's like, oh, I actually want to come with you.
Mm.
And also, in addition to that, the conflict there is like, oh, I don't feel like you're ready, which kind of goes along with like I don't feel like you need to be like prepared.
Well, I thought at the end it was he felt bad because he knew it was gonna be like it was gonna be hard to kill them at the end, especially for Maney. And I don't think he wanted to put him
Which
through
kind of
that.
made up for it a little bit for me. I was like, that's fine, like, whatever. But like in the moment, I was like,
Yeah, you're right.
it felt like way too easy for him to have been like, okay, now you're coming with me. Like
Sure.
the same way that it was when he was leaving his home with Gladys. It just kind of felt kind of like cheap to me. Like it wasn't earned by the characters. Which I mean, I know it's like based on like real events and stuff like that, but
Yeah. No, yeah.
On the topic of Maney, like, what do you think of that that scene in the bathroom?
Oh, in the bar.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah.
I like that so much. I thought that scene was good.
Yeah, I thought that was good. But that was like one of the only times where he seemed to have any bit of like swagger, like you know what I mean? Like he
Right.
seemed to have his old like suave back, you know what I mean? Like he's like
Right.
I'm a Texas Ranger. Like
Yeah.
he
he
did see
did trip that kid that one time.
Huh?
He did trip that kid that one time.
Yeah. He did trip the kid. I don't know. I thought that was a good scene. I thought that was a fun
It's
scene.
funny.
But it was like,
Yeah.
you know, he has this skill to beat these dudes like in hand-to-hand combat here, and that's like the only time like we really see that.
Mm.
Like, I don't know. The only thing that scene does is like show us like, oh, he's like good with. He still has it, and you know, I don't know. These people support Clyde and Bonnie just like all the other people we've seen in the movie. Like, it's just another scene that like doesn't like add to the story, and I felt like there were a lot of those in this movie. You know.
I suppose. I thought a lot of those were at the front half. I mean, like I said, like I think that like Frank and his
It
wife.
was a good
like,
fight
those-
scene. I mean, I'd give it that. And it
Yeah.
was entertaining.
I thought it was.
I agree.
I thought it was pretty good. I don't know.
Picky with this movie.
I wanted to mention like, and I don't know, and this is I get it's based on real life, so I mean none of us really know, but I thought it was really like I so wanted to know why Bonnie and Clyde were doing what they were doing, like especially when they said Bonnie and Clyde have been doing the same route for 3 years, like they've been going like a circle over and over and over again. I'm just like, I want to know why. I don't know. It just added to my like when they mentioned these little tidbits about like what they're doing. It didn't seem like fully logical, and you want to know. Like I'm just like I want to know. Yeah, I just wanted to know. It just made me want to know why even more.
That's a good point.
I don't know. It was just something that I had written down and thought.
They're robbing banks.
Yeah, I think Clyde just liked robbing banks, and Bonnie was just in love with Clyde.
Yeah,
Remember, they always let her take the last shot.
yeah, yeah. She would just like, roll them over and shoot them in the face.
Yeah.
Horrible. Also, what did you guys think of when they talked about right? They found where they were at, like the campsite they were at or something, and they talked about like she's like in pain or something. Like she's like a heavy drinker and like
Oh, she had like there was some sort of like pain reliever, huge like morphine bottle or whatever. I don't think it was,
okay.
it was something like that.
All right.
Her leg, remember she got the leg
Yeah, it was
injury?
for her leg. Yeah, okay.
Remember when they were like, "Oh, she needs dope. Where's the nearest town?" That's
Yeah.
what.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Speaking of which,
Hmm.
you guys watch this movie with subtitles or no?
I didn't.
I don't think I did. No.
Okay, I watched it with subtitles, and it was like so much easier for me to keep up with everything that was going on than the first time. The first time I didn't watch it with subtitles, and I had to like stop and think like, okay, wait, how are they logically going here and getting to the? Because like the way that they talk combined with like the like disjointed nature of their investigation was like sometimes really hard for me to follow. I don't know if that makes sense.
Sure.
I get that.
No, kind of.
I
Yeah.
do.
I was like,
should have subtitles.
oh, okay, because this guy, because there's also a ton of names that they were mentioning that I had to try and remember too. Like this guy, they're like McNabb, and then there was like Ivy, and then there was this other dude, you know, that they were just part of the Barrow gang and stuff. And they're like, oh, let's go to this guy's house. Oh, let's go to this guy's house. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. You know.
Right.
Can we
So,
talk?
yeah, no, but, what else is there?
I was
Yeah,
gonna,
no, I do. I do agree, though. I wish that there could have been a little more on like the motives.
I was
other
just saying. I was just saying in regards to Bonnie and Clyde. Yeah. Is that?
I agree with that.
What do you guys think of Frank Hamer, like the character of Frank Hamer? Because he was pretty unique, I thought. You know.
What was he unique? Was he?
But you think he was kind of bland or something?
No,
or?
he wasn't. I wouldn't say he was bland, but I would say that like he's not necessarily like a unique persona or character of sorts. Like if you were to encounter a lot of like sheriffs or like captains or officers, especially of that time, I feel like you'd find people very similar to him.
I guess so, but he just kind of had this mindset of like he wasn't afraid to hurt other people. No, like
He seemed to have he seemed to have a very, very defined sense of what was right and what was wrong. And that
yeah,
kind of just
like, a lot of the times it seemed like he was like, well, these people are wrong, so I'm gonna kill them.
yeah.
Like,
He was very bland.
you know, like that story that Maney was telling about how they killed like 54 bandits in one night and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, let's just kill them.
Because of Frank.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, his logic wasn't flawed. I mean, he's like, yeah, they've been shooting at you. They've killed two of your men right the last 2 days. He's like, all right, like they killed two of your men. Now we go kill them. Like,
But it seemed like he almost tried to distance himself from other people so he wouldn't feel so bad about, or he wouldn't feel bad about killing people. You know.
I would almost feel like that was like. I feel like that might have even been like unintentional by him too. I feel like right. I feel like that's just kind of like the way he was. Like I don't think he intentionally was like I'm staying away from these people so I don't like have emotional attachments to them, so it's harder to kill them. He just kind of like because he was like kind of just more of like a loner of sorts in terms of like he didn't talk very often. He didn't really get into like
And I think that also speaks to like the traditional versus like
Mm-hmm.
Progression of technology and whatnot that they were going for, because he like hates the radio because it's an intrusion of a man's peace and quiet and stuff like that.
Well, I think that's the whole movie, like too, like with the wiretapping, like they're like the what wiretapping,
Yeah.
and like I don't know, and just all these like the cars even, and I think it's kind of funny, the Texas Rangers like were on horses mostly, and he's driving like one of the nicest cars of the time,
85 horsepower,
right? And like, you know, that newspaper article that like Bonnie and Clyde were like thanking Henry Ford, saying like, you make a great car
Oh,
and
Yeah.
stuff. Like
yeah.
he's literally driving like the best car now. It's like, and also like fighting with the FBI and stuff.
Hmm.
Like I just think it's just really tradition kind of versus like, you know, progression and like
Progression. Yeah, sure.
kind of pushing the guys out, thinking like, oh, they're old. Like, and it showed it like physically too in the beginning. I like to like show them like, you know, out of breath
And they
running.
couldn't run. They couldn't chase the
Like here
kid.
are these two Texas Rangers the governor just appointed, and they can't even catch a kid. I mean,
Mm.
so I just I don't know. I think it was just kind of cool, like showing like, you know, tradition actually is.
But like, yeah, in the end, like the tradition is what gets it, you know.
Yeah, I like how they ended up tripping the kid the second time. Get it?
No,
Yeah.
I know this movie isn't like a political movie, but I would say that it pushes across a lot of conservative ideals to the viewers. Like
Oh,
Um.
thing that they push across, and then the other thing that they push across is like, you know, that if people do bad things, like that's it. Like they gotta be punished for it. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Oh, wait. What was the first one? I'm sorry, I didn't catch it.
It's like tradition, like
Sure.
tradition.
Okay. Sure. I mean, I feel like I mean, I suppose if you're conservative, you're more traditional in general. But I don't know if that's like. But yeah, the second one, in regards to like they deserve like almost like they deserve to be punished kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean that definitely was pushed across, but I feel like that was pushed across because we're going from primarily Frank's perspective. I feel like Maney's perspective was not. It was almost a contrarian perspective until the end when he ended up stepping up and helped, like stepped on the road with them, right?
Yeah.
Um,
But like
but
that perspective that like dehumanizes Bonnie and Clyde, like that.
yeah, sure. I feel like
It doesn't.
listen. It definitely, yeah, it dehumanized Bonnie and Clyde, no doubt. But I think I don't know if this is the reason the movie did it, but it was also like everyone else in the entire country had Bonnie and Clyde dehumanized. So, right? I mean, the only people who like knew Bonnie and Clyde or like knew their human side was like their family and two of them.
But I mean, those other people, like to them, it wasn't like dehumanized, like
Well,
they
wasn't it?
devil, like they
No, but it was like
almost like deities to them. You know what I mean? It was like to
which
them.
I would, yeah, which I mean, I feel like it's just as bad because like they're
No, I agree,
yeah,
but I'm just saying that like
yes,
that like the whole perspective on Bonnie and Clyde was a very like conservative perspective throughout the whole movie. You know what I mean?
sure,
Um,
like justice must be served.
yeah.
Like,
Whereas like
at almost any cost.
perspective might be more like, oh well, what they were doing wasn't nearly as bad as what was happening to like the American people across the country at that time. You know what I mean? Like with the Great Depression and all. And you know, I'm not saying that,
I mean, I
I'm not
suppose.
saying that,
No, I know. It's just funny the way you say it. It's like,
yeah,
I mean, they got 13 people, but
yeah.
I know what you're saying. Yeah, it's like it's definitely more of like the classic,
Yeah, it just
justice at any cost. Yeah.
do things is like
Mhm.
is better than the way things are going now, which seems to be a theme in the movie. You know what I mean?
What
Like
was better than things are going now? Sorry.
like falling back on the way things used to be, and like where
Mhm.
justice was justice and right was right and wrong was wrong.
Sure.
And so it was just black and white, and that's how there is to it. You know what I mean? That
Yeah.
seems to be the theme of the movie.
that's Frank.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, sure. I also kind of going off of that. At the end of the movie, when Bonnie and Clyde were dead, and I think this happened in real life too. Do you remember when they all ran to the car? All those people, right? You remember
Yeah,
the car was all shut up, and all the people ran to the car, and
I thought that was creepy.
they were they were all like so like most of them I would assume were like really sad
Yeah.
that they were dead, and like people would reach into the car and everything. And I just thought it was really strange, at least from the movie's perspective, to add in like a lot of like sad music. Like it was very like are we supposed to be sad that they're dead? Because through the whole movie, the movie pushed the perspective of like we didn't know these people and they were like almost ruthless killers.
I think it was almost like we're not
I-
supposed to be sad for Bonnie and Clyde so much as we're supposed to be like sad at this situation of like people like diving and like
I agree.
So okay, yeah. Then okay, that would make more
Because
sense. Yeah.
the whole thing. I was like, you're yanking at a dead person with bullet holes in their head. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
They kept like grabbing for their head, their hair.
Yeah. Okay.
It was very interesting. I think it was more like just sad about the situation. And frankly, I think like even those two men at the end were kind of just sad at the situation.
yeah.
Two men like who like.
Frank and Maney. Is that what you mean?
Oh, was that what you mean? Frank and Manny?
Yeah.
Greg? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean they were definitely they did that. I mean I liked how they didn't want to bring any like glory or sensationalize it at all.
Yeah.
Like I said when they offered to do the interview for $1,000 and Manny's like he was like, "Really, man?" Like
Yeah.
shakes his head and they both walk away.
Interesting though,
Yeah,
because
which I did like as well because it shows that that Frank doesn't even though he has this very strong sense of right and wrong, at the end of the day he doesn't like glorify what he's done by any stretch.
Yeah.
right, but in the
I
beginning,
feel like
They did mention before though that like remember when someone asked Ted to like film them shooting the car up and stuff, and they were all like, "Oh, what does this world come to?" So I don't think that was like a new development. I feel like they always had that perspective.
right.
the perspective of like what do you mean like
Of like they don't want to like publicize and glorify violence and stuff.
oh yeah, no, of course, yeah, I know, I agree they've always
I
had
feel like that was the
perspective.
overall theme. Just like
But
we
I'm
should
saying
not
yeah.
only just like only
Yeah,
if
exactly. He wasn't trying to. Yeah, I think that was a very strong theme with like particularly Frank. He was like, I don't like while he wanted to serve justice and gave people what he felt they deserved, he didn't want to, after
Yeah.
the fact, like glorify or like film or show everyone like what exactly happened. I think. Which
yeah,
I
exactly.
which I thought. I mean, I thought that was good. I thought that was good.
Mhm.
Me
And
too.
I mean, I do like also how they showed like the real life like video of the car at the end, like the people going to the car and everything, like the real life images.
Right. Well, I
Yeah.
think
What were you gonna say, Greg? I knew you. I know you want to say something.
when
Right now.
I forgot. Well, I was just saying, like, I feel like
Mm.
I don't know. I feel like
I mean, did you like the ending? Did you like how it all wrapped up? Like
yeah.
how did
I
you
thought it was kind
feel?
of creepy. I didn't necessarily love. I thought it was kind of a little provocative about like at the end how the people were kind of grabbing the corpses and
Mhm.
stuff. Um,
I mean, did you like the ending scene where they're like they switch drivers?
yes, I love that scene.
Oh yeah, yeah. That was really good.
I mean, because just kind of shows Frank. Like Frank was always like just like giving like taking control. Kind of just shows Frank like giving up control a little
Mm.
bit.
Yeah. I wonder, do you think that's the only change Frank went through? Because I feel like
Yes. I think it's one of the only few changes.
he changes that much from the beginning of the movie till the
Me
end.
either. I was actually a little disappointed in that.
Yeah.
Really?
Just like
But I feel like remember when he's talking to Clyde's dad and he told that story about him going down that path? I feel like that whole idea encompasses Frank and why he didn't change, right? Because he's so, like just like Clyde, he's like his heart. He doesn't have a good heart anymore. He has a bad heart now. It's just how it is. Like Frank is so far down the path of like the whole cop and like serving justice path that he can't like it's just it's way too late for him to change. Almost is how it seemed to me that they framed
But
it.
like when I'm watching a movie, like the main character has like a goal that I want to root
Mhm.
for, but I also want to like root for like I want them to have like some need that they don't know that they want that they get in the end, and it's like, oh, like now they're like this, you know? Like
I know
I
what
don't
you mean. Like a big like I mean you want an actual character arc where you feel like they
know.
accomplish something in themselves. Yeah, I
Yeah.
know what you're saying.
They help themselves some way, that the decisions they made along the way, like for example, and this is a cliche example for this movie in particular, but like these are old guys and they like have something to prove that like they've still got it, and like at the end they're like actually comfortable in themselves and they don't feel like they have something to prove anymore because they've accomplished this for themselves or something like that, which I felt
Oh.
would have been there.
I like that was Frank kind of.
Well,
Yeah.
no, I thought I would argue that he didn't feel like he needed to prove himself.
Yeah, which is exactly my point. It's like that like that would be an
Okay.
example of a movie like this.
Yeah.
He didn't have that problem at the beginning, which made it hard for him to change and grow because there wasn't something that we felt as like the audience, like
You know, Normally, I would agree with you about I love seeing a character develop and change in a movie, and normally that's how I view like if someone changes throughout the movie in a meaningful way, I feel like that moves the movie up a couple pegs in terms of how quality the movie is. But I feel like in this case, I feel like that didn't really, for me, a lack of change in Frank didn't really hurt it for me, just because I feel like I got
I
to see why he wasn't changing. It wasn't due to lack of care from the writers or producers or anything, which happens in a lot of other movies. They just don't
it
change,
just makes
like
it
they don't develop.
much for me because I
Okay,
want
yeah,
character and stuff like that, and for them to accomplish their goals and reach that level that
and
we're
almost
working.
enlightenment of sorts, like a realization of
I mean, it
something.
doesn't have to be anything radical,
Yeah,
but
okay, yeah, sure.
like, what is the movie we watched last week?
Top Gun.
Top Gun. Yeah, like Maverick
Hey,
changed a
he
ton.
did. He changed quite a bit, which I did really like. Yeah, and like I said, I would normally agree with you. I just feel like I don't know. I just feel like this is kind of an
I
exception.
mean, and I agree that it would be hard to do with a movie like this,
Mm,
this particular situation and this particular character. But
sure.
that doesn't mean that it didn't make it. It does. That doesn't mean that it wasn't like interesting. It wasn't interesting sometimes for me because of that.
Okay.
Should we? Um, you
Mm.
guys have more, or do you want to start to cap it?
No, no. I mean, I think.
Question.
What'd you
If
say, Connor?
I have one more thing, if you guys want to talk about it,
Hmm.
Oh.
which is like, what do you guys think of like when they finally catch Bonnie and Clyde, and they like and they start shooting them, and they like show us like pretty detailedly and like gratuitously them getting shot up in the car and like that violence there at the end.
I
Mhm.
didn't like it. I mean, you don't mean violent. I'm like, ugh. I'm kind of like, eh.
Well, I think that's all. I think that was the point. I think like when you're sitting there and you watch it and you see Frank go up and he's standing in front of them and they just look at him and he has his gun pointed at them, but nothing happens. And then you see Bonnie reach for her gun, and then he starts shooting her, and then you see Maney come up and start on the road as well and start shooting them, and then they all start shooting him, and then they keep shooting him for a while. Yeah, I thought that was weird. I was like, they
Yeah.
really all wanted in on the action. Even the kid shot too. And Maney told him he didn't have to. He's like, hey, you don't have to. He's like, I'm good, I'm good.
Yeah.
That's strange to me. I wonder if it's almost like I don't know if they were trying to give across a certain message of sorts, or if it was just like everyone just wanted to. I don't know. I thought that was interesting though. It seemed way too easy. Way
I
too.
mean, that's how it was in real life. They just
Yeah, I
killed.
know. I know. Yeah.
No justice, but also,
Yeah.
uh, um, like no justice system, but also like I kind of, oh gosh, yeah, I don't know. I just felt like that
What?
happened
What?
too
What?
easy. Like how did they know that they're going to be coming at that road at that time?
Oh well, I know in real life, they figured out. Frank figured out somehow that they were gonna come
Well,
down that way, and that the
they
guy's dad
the
told them.
guy's son, yeah, they were going to meet at his house with the son, basically.
Hmm. Yeah, like the kid, the guy who was with Bonnie and Clyde, that his dad told them, ended up telling them they were gonna be there soon. Yeah, and like they
But
went through that house, and like there were some tense scenes with like them walking through that house. It was
yeah,
pretty tense
I
and
like that
everything.
they found like their clothes and stuff like that. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, that was a little interesting. The
But I
semblance
just
of.
thought that it was like interesting that they showed the violence because there's like a ton of possibilities there. Like maybe they were showing us that to give us like the satisfaction of seeing Bonnie and Clyde,
Hmm.
or maybe they were showing us to show like, whoa, they're actually killing people here, and it's like it's shoving it in your face, like this is like violence happening. Like I don't know. There are just a ton of reasons that they could have put that in there, and I'm not totally sure.
Yeah, I know for sure. It was interesting.
Mhm.
All right. I mean, Greg, do you wanna wrap it up with your like? Did you wanna give a rating, or do you wanna give any final thoughts, or
Oh
anything
sure, yeah.
else for like?
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
So
sorry, Connor. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
before you, I just want to bring up this fun fact here.
Of
But
course.
before Greg gives his rating, the director who did this,
Hmm.
he seems to really love like true stories and putting like his own little kind of like spin on them because he also did The Founder. I don't know if you guys know that film. It's about the founding of
McDonald's.
and the guy who started McDonald's. Yeah,
Oh,
and he did Saving Mr. Banks about that one
Oh,
Tom Hanks and how they like went around like selling Mary Poppins to Disney and stuff like that.
Oh.
And he also did The Blind Side. Fun fact.
Did he?
Yes. So I think it's interesting. He's done all these movies that are like based on real events, but they all kind of have their own like style to them. And
I like it.
Sure.
He's good. That's why this movie's so good.
all right.
All right, Greg. What are you gonna give it?
Thanks for sharing that, by the way. So, we've really discussed all the things that we could work on. You can work on. So I don't think there's much point in me like talking about that again. But like,
Sure.
I overall would just like to see.
Of your stuff.
I overall would just like to see a little less taken, like a little more taken out, like the beginning, like the wife scene, and put more to like explain like how they found where they were gonna come at that time when they shot them, and where they caught them and stuff. That's kind of my main issue. Otherwise, I really like it. For all the reasons that I've said. I appreciate mostly how they realized, like there was a little big like moral theme, like how it's like to kill somebody is just it's not a light thing, even if it is, Bonnie and Clyde, like thieves like that. And just kind of like the humility at the end, like, for killing somebody, like it's not to be glorified or anything. So overall, I'll give this movie a 93.
Wow.
Yeah.
There we go, Greg.
They cracked the A.
Wow.
This movie that gets him to the A.
Oh, wait, you gave.
What'd you say?
Did you give Top Gun an 85 last week? Was it 80? I don't remember.
It was an 80.
Okay, and then you gave Lord of the Rings an 81.
Lord of the Rings 81.
Okay, and Irishman 86. Okay, cool.
And then Maze Runner 73.
Okay, and then Iron Man 82. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like this 11% better than I.
I did.
Good Lord.
I'm separating it from the whole Marvel universe. I'm looking at its individual movies.
Okay. Connor, would you like to go, or do you want me to go? And you want to go?
I mean, I can go.
Okay.
So, well, it's interesting because Greg, the same things that Greg had problems with are like probably the same things I had problems with. Like, I would cut out a lot of the first half. It was kind of slow, and some of it wasn't needed. Could shorten it, a lot of scenes. And also, what was the other thing Greg said? Oh, he didn't know. Like, he would have liked to have known more about the attack at the end, like how they planned them to come down that road and stuff. Which, I mean, I understood it, but I had more knowledge about it from watching the old 1967 Bonnie and Clyde, and that's kind of how I knew about it. And I can understand why it was maybe a little bit complicated to like see how they figure that out on the first time viewing this movie.
Did it explain something that I didn't catch?
I mean, they explain it, but it's kind of like they use the language that they use to explain it is like a little bit hard to kind of like put together when you're like watching it. It's like they say stuff like at one point they say like, oh, this guy's father, and then like 10 minutes later they're finally talking to this guy and they're like, oh, do you want your son to survive?
Yeah, that's stuff that you just don't catch first time.
Yeah.
But if there's more time, then maybe you would.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. And then I don't know, I would have wanted Frank Kamer to go through a little bit of an arc, I would say. And I also would have liked to have seen a little bit more of Bonnie and Clyde. Yeah, I know that the movie isn't like built for those things, but that would have made the movie a little more interesting to me. And I just found myself bored during a lot of the movie. I think a lot of the dialogue scenes, especially with Frank Kamer and Maney, were pretty good. And I liked Ted a lot. I think he was a good character. But yeah, I just think like you could have cut out a lot of the stuff that had to do with the governor of Texas and stuff. And this movie just could have been reworked a little bit and could have been a lot better. I would probably give it an 82% because I did like some of it, but I just felt bored during a lot of it. And I think that it just looks and sounds too good. Like the technical aspects of this movie were so good that I can't give it any lower than 82. So
good.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. Like the scenery was very well done, right? I mean, like felt like you were in like the 1930s, right? for the most part, I would say. So that was a good point. I had many of the problems that Connor did. Particularly, I thought the first half, like I brought up multiple times, I could cut out some of the scenes. It was just slow. Like it was like, all right, I just want to, because I know they're gonna get on the road. They're called the Highwaymen. I'm like, all right, let's just get them on the road. Let's go. Thought those were a little slow. I thought some of the dialogue scenes, at least I remember writing down the midway point. I feel like they could have maybe expanded some of those. I thought that there was some weird like quick cuts away from some dialogue. Um, and I also thought the mayor or the governor's storyline didn't pay off. I thought if you're going to include that, you got to include something at the end, or not include or severely limit it, in the movie. But I did really like just the whole most of the back half of the movie. I thought it picked up significantly. I got a little faster paced. It wasn't too fast paced. And then I really liked how just the very end, like the last 25 minutes to half hour, Maney tells the story of like the bandits and everything, and then we see them killing Bonnie and Clyde right after. I thought that was just like the whole dynamics with that and the aftershocks of that with the people, the cars, and the interview offer, and all that. I thought that was really good. But I also wish we saw Bonnie and Clyde talk during the movie. So I guess I would give it an 80, but it's mainly just because I wish we got to see Bonnie and Clyde talking, and the first half was just slow.
I'm gonna make a confession here. Is that I was in my head, I was like, this is gonna be an 82 coming into the podcast right now. But after talking about it and realizing like how many problems I have with this movie, I would say it's more like a 75 for me, actually.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, yeah, like there were.
You just want to be the lowest score.
Yeah. And also, I do think this is about a C movie for me. Like,
Okay.
I don't choose to watch it again.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to give a lower rating than you, but I didn't want to give too low of a rating.
All right, so just drop it down to a 60 then, and then Connor will drop to a 50 just because he wants to be the lowest.
All right, no, honestly, I'll stick with an 80. I mean, what did I give below an 80? Did I give The Irishman below an 80? This was a tiny bit better than The Irishman, I guess.
I really like The Irishman better than this movie.
It's just The Irishman was too long. We're not going to get into that, but I don't know.
And listen, not every movie has to have an exact comparison. Like I might give.
Yeah. That's fair.
I still like it better than this other movie because maybe I expected more of it or something like that.
Yeah, I mean,
it's apples and oranges.
This was about an 80. Yeah, maybe a C plus, but something around there for me. Yeah, I mean, all right. I mean, I think that about wraps it up. I don't know if you guys have any final thoughts, but if not, I guess we'll just be back next week with a movie that Connor gets to decide, I believe, next. Connor finally gets another choice. Here we go.
I hope you like it, Greg. I hope we can come to a consensus.
Yeah, I want to see a movie where we all have it in like the 90s.
We seem to be clashing on our genres here.
Yeah, we do.
We do, yes. It'll be really interesting. But yeah, we'll be back sometime next week with another one. And yeah, I mean, thanks everyone for watching. We'll be back next week.